Hey, next on the Teen Nation, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the show featuring Craig Nall and Debbie O'Connell. Craig has got a fascinating story. Drafted in the 5th round by the Green Bay Packers, spent the majority of his career backing up Brett Favre. Every time he got an opportunity to get in a game, he did fantastic. He completed 63% of his passes, 402 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, plus was over in NFL Europe for one season and did a fantastic job there. Yet no other teams would really give him an opportunity when he had an opportunity to become a free agent. So you'll hear his story about that, plus battling back from alcoholism following the passing of his father. So it's a fascinating story from Craig. I hope you'll enjoy that conversation. Debbie O'Connell, as you guys know, is one of my all-time favorite people on the planet, a top 50 LPGA instructor. She's got some great things coming up this year, including her Conquer Your Mind Challenge. If you'll go out there and sign up for it by texting the word NEXT, N-E-X-T obviously, to 727-339-0106, you can be a part of that fantastic program. Get your mind in the right place. Conquer your demons. Play your best golf. Debbie's going to help you do that. You'll hear about that plus so much more that she's got going on, again, during the course of our conversation in the second segment. Thanks for tuning in. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode. Okay, now joining me is Craig Nall. Craig became a wonderful friend of ours over on the football side. He joined us for the first time over 12 years ago, and we became instant fans of his. Plus, our birthdays are 2 days apart. Craig started his college football career at LSU, then transferred to Northwestern State, where he became the first quarterback in their history to pass for over 2,000 yards in a season. He led them to the 2001 FCS playoffs. He was drafted in the 5th round in 2002 by the Green Bay Packers. He played in the league until 2008 and spent most of his time backing up Brett Favre. When he got into a game, Craig completed 63% of his passes, threw for 402 yards, and had 5 touchdowns with no interceptions. He also had stints with the Buffalo Bills and Houston Texans. He played over in NFL Europe for the Scottish Claymores and was named All-NFL Europe in 2003. Following his playing days, Craig got into coaching. He started QB1 Sports. He's worked with Trent Dilfer, training top young quarterbacks at the Elite 11 camps. In 2022, he was inducted into the Northwestern State Hall of Fame. He's also the owner of Craig's Cajun Bread. Go out online and check them out at CajunBread.com. And I'm thrilled I get to have him with me today here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Craig, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Chris. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic, thank you. It's been a minute since I got to have you as part of the show. Catch us up. What's been going on with you?
It has, and I appreciate the invite. Always enjoy getting an opportunity to talk with you. Been a while, been too long probably, but life has been pretty interesting for me since we last spoke. A lot of things have changed in my life personally. 2 years ago, lost my father. He died from a heart attack. Suddenly, I had seen him last on Thanksgiving 21, and March 8th, I get a phone call from my mom that night saying that he had passed. They were supposed to come in later that weekend to watch the boys. I was going to Orlando that weekend for my first Elite 11 camp of the year. So that was definitely a shock. And then 10 days later, the day of my dad's funeral, woke up to found out that my mom's brother had passed unexpectedly overnight. And then 5 days after that was my brother's wife, my sister-in-law. So it was a tough time, and it obviously not easy to lose loved ones, but having 3 in 15 days was pretty tough for my family. We've gotten through it, but that kind of sparked a change in me, I guess. My dad was my best friend and somebody I looked up to. He's my biggest fan. He pushed me really hard to achieve my goals in sports and everything else that I did. And so it kind of forced me to start paying a little bit more attention to my health. And kind of fast forward to the end of that year, my marriage of 17 and a half years kind of dissolved, and we filed for divorced back in October of 22, and that's finally done. So some grief counseling, things of that nature, but my mom is, she's a strong woman. She's a woman of faith, and we've been able to kind of get through things together. My boys are doing fine. They're in sports. My little man, Mason, is playing baseball and football and everything else he could do. So he's kind of following my footsteps. And my older son, who's in 10th grade, is in the marching band. He's in honors band with saxophone. So he's thriving there. But we're making it. But last year during October, last summer in July, I've got a new girlfriend. She's amazing. I met her on St. Patty's Day last year. So coming up on a year that I've been knowing Jessica, we decided to go to Boca Raton for an NFLPA event. And it was kind of our first little excursion to get away together. It was great. Did some networking there, and then came back and got COVID and ended up missing a week and a half of work. That sent me into the urgent care, and I realized my blood pressure was severely high. It was like close to 200 over 130.
Wow.
And having lost my father, it was obviously something that I needed to address right away. So I've been attending a lot more doctor visits over the days. In that process, I decided to quit drinking. So coming up on 8 months now where I've been sober. I've working a 12-step program. But I've got an amazing girlfriend, Jessica, that has been by my side and encouraging me throughout the whole process. Really an angel. I mean, she was sent to me kind of at the right time in my life to help me through some of these tough times. She's my buddy, and we just get along great. And I don't know. So a lot has changed during that time. I started a new career in oil and gas. From 2017 to 22, I was in commercial real estate and business brokerage. I'm keeping my real estate license active, but I've kind of pivoted out of that. I have a good friend of mine that is the president of oil and gas company, about a 30-year-old company here in the Dallas area. We're based out of Plano. And he approached me back in October 22, saying that he wanted me to come on board. So I had to pass a few exams and got through that last spring, and have been a registered representative since June of last year. So a lot has changed, but coming out on the other end stronger and better. My relationship with my boys couldn't be better. I get a chance to see my mom a few times out of the year, whether she comes here or I go back to Louisiana. So she's doing great. And I've truly got an amazing woman on my side that's encouraging me and helping me get through all these major changes in my life. But I'm at peace. I'm happy where I'm at in life. I've started a new career. It's challenging, but fun. I started jujitsu recently. So I'm making a lot of 180s in my life, and I know God's got me right where He wants me.
So let's talk about that a little bit, Craig. I mean, I know Jessica, I'm sure, is doing everything she can to be a bright light for you and helping you through the things that you've had to deal with. I know you've got a strong faith. Dealing with grief and dealing with that much in that span of time had to be extremely difficult. How'd you get through it?
It was. I mentioned I did some counseling, some grief counseling, also kind of going through a divorce at the same time. Just getting some coping skills, but a lot of time in prayer and meditation. And I look back at my relationship with my dad the last 4 years before he passed was probably the best it had ever been. We communicated daily, either through text or phone calls. So I really just kind of focused on the good times. I didn't, I'm just, end of the day, extremely grateful to have a father like him, and knowing that his faith had grown tremendously towards the end of his life. I know where he is. I know he's looking down on us. I know he was called home with Jesus, and it makes it a little bit easier to deal with. But I talk to him every day. I tell him good night. There's a couple of stories that I told when I gave his eulogy. There's one time I was home for the off season, and I'm sitting on the couch. He's in his little chair, and we're watching, I think, a golf tournament or something. And he started clapping, and I look over there, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm trying to get that fly." Well, I didn't see a fly, but then I looked up at the top of the ceiling. It's kind of a vaulted ceiling, about 10 feet above him, and there was a wasp at the top. And he thought it was like right in front of him. And he was clapping and everything. So anytime a fly buzzes by or lands on my arm or something like that, that's my dad, Malcolm, kind of saying hello. So I don't know. I feel his spirit all the time. His presence is manifested in a number of different ways, whether it's a song on the radio, time on the clock, just little things throughout the day. And obviously, continuing to just love on my mom and give her all the love and support that she can handle. But also having a woman by my side that truly cares for me and encourages me and wants me to do better. We just communicate at such a great level. We were friends first and foremost before our relationship got serious. Which is, the crazy thing is, I met her on St. Patty's Day last year, and within 10 minutes of knowing her, she asked if I wanted to go get a tattoo. And I said, yeah, sure. I'd never had one before, but I couldn't tell her no. We just kind of hit it off right off the bat. And, we've had some ups and downs, but the decision to stop drinking was a huge one. So she dropped me off at the treatment center, spent a couple weeks at Valley Hope in Grapevine, learned some tools. I've made a commitment, through that program. It's very much a spiritual program. So being more God conscious and just giving things up to him, letting him take the wheel, so to speak, and understand that my life had become unmanageable and I needed help, and there's probably no human that could help me. So, getting back in touch with God and letting him guide me. I pray all the time for just the knowledge and the strength to carry out his will for me. So I know I'm in the right place. I know where I'm supposed to be, and I'm just trying to be obedient to him every day I get a chance, and just be grateful and be of service to others. That's kind of the main things that have helped me kind of get through this.
So let's take that a step further. You mentioned tools, and obviously you've overcome struggles in a lot of different angles, not just one thing. It seems like it was multiple things coming at you that you had to deal with. For those out there that are struggling, that can relate to the situation that you were in, what's some advice you can give to them?
You have to want to quit. There was kind of some brief moments of sobriety in my life. And then things would get better and I felt like I could kind of manage things, but understanding that alcoholism is a disease and it's a progressive one, that things will not get better. And for those people that are not alcoholic, that are living with somebody that is, understand that it's not a behavioral thing. Like, just like cancer is a disease, this is very much the same way. Those people that are struggling, understanding that, like, we have an allergy. It's an allergic reaction to alcohol. We act differently. I know when I was drinking, I couldn't just have one or two. I always wanted more. And that's kind of the true sign. So I think the biggest thing for me was being able to admit that I had a problem, that I couldn't manage my own life, and that I needed help. I had to get to that point where I needed help, and my health was the biggest thing that prompted me into that. I have an example of my father who had dealt with high blood pressure, and he had triple bypass back in the day. He had a pacemaker. So he's had heart issues. I know it's a part of my family, and drinking was not helping any of that. Also want to set a better example for my boys. You know, they're a huge why in my life. I'm starting a new career. I need to focus on that. I don't need all these other distractions. I've got a woman that loves me, but is not going to put up with me continuing to do things the way I had in the past. So I have a lot of solid reasons that I'm standing firm and made this commitment. But ultimately, everybody kind of has to hit their rock bottom. There's so many yets that I hadn't done that I didn't want to get to. You know, I hadn't gotten in a wreck and hurt somebody after drinking. Hadn't been arrested 10 times or gone bankrupt, and all those things that, some of these rooms that I sit in, I hear these stories and it breaks your heart. But end of the day, you have to kind of get to the end of your rope and say, God, I give up. I need help. I need you to help me out of this. So early on, I just prayed for God to remove the obsession for me to drink. And probably within 2 months, it was gone. It was a miracle. I don't really think about it. Now, I do rely on maintaining a certain spiritual fitness daily, whether that's through gratitude or acts of service or attending meetings and being around other alcoholics. It's really been great. I'm going through a step study right now with about 35 guys. We meet on Sunday afternoons, attend meetings throughout the week. So I don't know. It's a wonderful thing. I was always kind of scared of what life would look like. Would it be boring, going to weddings or concerts or playing golf without having anything to drink? And honestly, I don't miss it. My life has been enhanced. I'm doing better than I have, and I can remember. I'm happy. I'm at peace, and I just, I have the joy of knowing that God is kind of in control, and I'm just trying to live out my will that He has for me on a daily basis.
That's fantastic stuff, Craig. Switching gears just a little bit, she convinced you to go get a tattoo. What'd you get?
So my boys and I, all three of us are Taurus. So I have the Taurus symbol on my right shoulder. So the next morning I woke up and I couldn't wait to tell my golf buddies. They're like, "You're crazy." I said, "I know, but I don't know. I like it." And it's not the last one. I actually got another one with Jessica. We went down to Houston and we went to Morgan Wallen concert on a Saturday. It was at Minute Maid Park. And then the next day, the Texans played at home against the Cardinals. So we went to that game. But early on in our relationship, I learned that she's a little bit older than I am, and kind of did the math. She's 444 days older than I am. And 444 being one of those angel numbers. It's something that my mom and I see. I talked about, the time on the clock earlier. We see fours a lot. My mom was born in 44. My dad was born on the 4th of November. The house that I've been living in for the last 16 years here was 1104 was our address, which is my dad's birthday. So fours come up a lot. And then when I found out that we were 444 days apart, it was just a sign for us. So I have that on my left rib and she got it on her right.
Wow. That's fantastic. Yeah. What a great story.
Yeah. At some point I'll probably get another one. I want to have some kind of, honoring of my dad somewhere tattooed on my body. He used to call everybody Padna. So I'll probably have something to do with Padna tattooed somewhere at some point.
That's great.
So anyway, yep. I know my mom was not super happy, but she's like, you're a grown man. Live your life.
Indeed.
So, but I'll just, kind of put a bow on everything, man. I've made a lot of changes in my life. A lot of things are different from just a year or 2 years ago. But on the right path, moving forward. You know, I wish my dad was still here. I know he would love Jessica, and been super excited for my job and career in oil and gas. But you know, God's timing is always perfect. So
Indeed.
I can't judge that. I could just roll with it and try to live a life that's obedient to Him.
That's fantastic. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Craig, I want to go back to your college days for a minute, back to Northwestern State. And like I mentioned in your intro, you were the first quarterback to throw for more than 2,000 yards in a season there. You actually threw for 2361 back in 2001. That's still among the top 10 seasons in school history. You lead the team to the FCS playoffs against Montana. In that game, you go for 336, nearly beat Montana, who would go on to win the FCS National Championship that season. Talk about your season there at Northwestern State.
It was great. I spent the 4 seasons prior to that at LSU, and things just didn't really work out. I wasn't getting to play, and I had 1 year of eligibility left. Back then, they didn't have the transfer portal, so I had to go down a level. And Northwestern State had a really good program. It's only 45 minutes from where I grew up in Alexandria. So before I got my release from LSU, I actually had a close friend of the family do a little bit of recruiting for me and reached out and made sure I had a home before I actually got my release. So it was a great move. In retrospect, I kind of wish I'd have gone a year before because I had so much fun. It felt like home, and it still is. Getting inducted last year into the Hall of Fame is a huge honor. Even only being there for 1 year, I feel like I made a pretty good impact and made a bunch of lifelong friends there. So it was a great season. Had a great time, and just goes to show you, if you can play, they'll find you. I had a really good season, even though I missed 2 games that year. I had a fracture in my left knee playing against Sam Houston. It was actually against Josh McCown. And one of the scouts from Green Bay was there to watch him that game, and that's when I think Green Bay started kind of taking notice of me, was during that game. And I don't know, ended up making a good run. We went up to Montana, gave them all they could handle, just came up a little bit short in the end. But that season was good enough for me to get drafted in the 5th round the next year and spent the next 4 years in Green Bay.
You guys actually upset TCU that year. You did it in overtime, and it was at TCU. How big a thrill was it to beat those guys in their home stadium?
It was amazing. It's still one of the biggest wins in our school history for sure. We got the ball first, and we drove down. I think it was about 6 or 7 plays and scored a touchdown. So we came out swinging. I think it was like family night or senior night or something like that. So we definitely ruined the party and crashed that whole deal. They had, I think, 9 of their 11 returning starters on defense from the year before, where they had a top 5 defense. So, we were up to the challenge that night for sure, and was able to get it done in overtime, make a couple plays towards the end and get in field goal range. And, we came out with the W. So I still remember that game like it was yesterday. Unfortunately, the next week we had to go up to Stillwater and play Oklahoma State. And we got beat, I think, 25-0, something like that. We never crossed the 50 on offense, but Cat was kind of out of the bag at that point. And, we were kind of emotionally drained, but it was a great season.
You were also on the track and field team out there throwing the javelin. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I started that back my freshman year of high school, really kind of by chance. I was getting out of class and football season had just ended. And I was walking by the practice field. The starting quarterback was a senior, so he didn't have to go to off-season workouts like I was heading to. And I stopped because I saw him stand there with the track coach holding this big stick in his hand. And I was like, what is he doing over here? And his name's Will Crenshaw. So I watched him, and he's starting to throw the javelin. And I don't know, after about 5 minutes of watching him, the coach was like, you think you can do any better? And I was like, I don't know, I'll try. And I ended up throwing it pretty good. So my freshman year, I threw like 135 feet. The next year, 180, 200 my junior year, and then my senior year ended up throwing 220 feet, which is the fourth best throw in the nation that year in high school.
Wow.
So it kind of started early on. And then was state champion in my senior year of high school. Then when I got to LSU, the baseball coaches wanted me to play, but DiNardo wouldn't let me. He said, "You're on a football scholarship. You're playing football." I was a pretty good baseball player. I had a chance to get drafted out of high school. I had a couple workouts with Seattle and Cincinnati, but I'd already signed my scholarship to play football, so I figured that was probably the best route for me, considering I probably would have been like a 40th or 50th round pick and stuck in AA. And, like you see a lot of guys now try the baseball route and then they come back to college and play football. So I didn't want to do that. Stuck with football. But when DiNardo was fired and Saban came in, I wanted a chance to compete because I wasn't really getting that on the football field. And I knew it had been kind of too far removed from baseball for me to just be able to pick that back up. But I went in and talked to Coach Nick Saban and asked him if I could throw the javelin. Because Coach Henry was kind of asking me if I would be willing to do that. And Coach Saban said, "Yeah, if you're out there competing and you're winning, that's going to help our football program. But under one condition, you're not going to miss any spring practice." I said, "No problem." Well, the first outdoor meet that we had that year, I think it was late February, early March, about this time, had first 3 throws in preliminaries, made it to the finals. My first throw of the finals, I tore my groin almost in half.
Oh.
And I couldn't walk. A couple of days later, I'm still hobbling around. I'm on crutches. And we go in, and the diagnosis was it's going to be 8 to 10 weeks of rehab if they don't decide to do surgery. They're waiting for some of the swelling to go down. I mean, my leg was black from my groin all the way down to my knee.
Wow.
So I was like, well, if I have surgery, what are we talking about? They're like, well, you're done for the season. You're not going to be able to make spring football. I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. So end up rehabbing like crazy, and I made it back in 6 weeks, didn't miss any spring ball, was able to compete in another 3 meets before the season ended. And I finished third in the SEC meet and automatically qualified for nationals. So I got to throw in NCAA championships at Duke. And then after that season, that was 2000, end up transferring to Northwestern State and end up throwing it there that spring, finished second in the Southland Conference championship to my teammate Latrell Frederick. And we both autoed for nationals again, and I got to throw at at Oregon that year. So it was special. It was fun. I was an Olympic level. I topped out about 230 feet in college, which wasn't bad. It was good enough for the top 16 in the country to make it to NCAAs, but Latrell was throwing 250, 260, and I think he went to the U.S. trials and all that stuff for the Olympics. But obviously football was kind of where it was for me. But early on, I guess I learned how to throw things pretty good.
Indeed, you did. So as you mentioned, you get drafted in the 5th round in 2002 by the Packers, but they got a guy by the name of Brett Favre there. What'd you think about when you heard that the Packers picked you?
I was quite shocked, to be honest. We hadn't heard anything from Green Bay during the whole process. I'd gone up to Denver. My last semester of college, I was taking classes online. My agent was based out of Denver. So I was up there training for about 3 months. And then when I came home for our pro day, I just basically stayed home after that. And the week before the draft, we get a call, and Green Bay said that they wanted to send their offensive coordinator down to give me a private workout. So they called me on Monday of draft week, worked me out on Wednesday, had a great workout, did well in the classroom, on the board, interview process, all that stuff. And then that Sunday, they give me a call and saying that my name's about to come across the TV. It was also my 23rd birthday, so I got drafted on my birthday, which is kind of crazy. And then found out I was going to Green Bay. I was like, oh man, I'm about to play with Brett Favre, who was obviously an idol of mine. He had just won a Super Bowl a few years prior to that. been MVP a few times, so somebody I just enjoyed watching to play. And so when I get up there to Green Bay shortly, a couple days after the draft, I get a chance to meet him for the first time, and I remember being starstruck, which I usually don't get. And I didn't know if I was supposed to call him Mr. Favre or Brett or whatever, but shook hands with him. He said, "Hey, Craig, how are you?" I said, "I'm doing great, Brett. Nice to meet you." And he's like, "Where are you from again?" I said, "Alexandria." He's like, "Oh yeah, the armpit of the South, huh?" So he's a great teammate, great friend. We spend a lot of time together, obviously, but hunting, fishing, golfing, been to his house in Hattiesburg. I still see him every now and then. I was fortunate enough to go up and watch him get inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. I ran into him a couple of summers ago at a charity softball game there in Appleton. So we talk a couple times a year still, either through text or on the phone or in person sometimes. So good dude. Glad I had a chance to play with him. He's one of the best to ever do it.
Was he good about tutoring you and that sort of thing, kind of helping you understand what it's like playing at the NFL level and the things that you needed to do to progress in your skill set?
Yeah, he was. To an extent, obviously he's got a job to do, but he was never one to withhold information. If he saw me struggling with something, every now and then he'd give me a pointer here and there, but I took the opportunity more than anything just to sit back and observe and watch how he approached his job, his professionalism. It was quite impressive that when he stepped across the line onto the field, you kind of knew what you were getting out of number 4 every day at practice. Obviously, that translated into the games. But one of the things that people don't really realize is how prepared he was. He's super smart. I remember our offensive coordinator talking about, in his 13th year, he's still, talking to rookies and their first-year players coming in, talk about how diligent of a note taker he was, saying, he's in his 12th, 13th season. He's still back there taking notes at these install meetings. After my rookie year, I realized that was not true. He's up there doing a crossword puzzle. And a lot of times he would finish it before the hour and a half long meeting was over. So just goes to show you he was pretty sharp. But he had explained to me one night, this was when I'd left Green Bay. I was in Houston, actually. It was during the middle of the season, and he was with the Jets and was talking to me on the phone one Saturday night before a game, asking how I learned this numbering system instead of the West Coast offense. We're in kind of that Mike Martz system where the routes and everything are numbers as opposed to words. It's kind of like learning German. So we're talking about that, and he said, "Man, when I won those MVPs in the late 90s, he said, I never studied. I hardly ever studied. He was partying and doing all that stuff, and eventually had his bout with rehab, and he's been clean and sober ever since. But he said once he learned to start studying film and mastering things, he said, I can never go back to doing that." So when you hear about him being a prankster, and the Lord knows he did plenty of that, but he took care of his business first, so his professionalism was something that was really impressive for me to see up close and personal. But just the talent that he had, the physical talent, he's not a huge guy. He's a little bit over 6'2", maybe, played at about 220, 225. I was 6'3", 240 when I was playing, so a little bit bigger than him. But I could never throw it farther or harder or anything like that. Obviously, the wealth of experience that he had gained, he would see things that nobody else would. I remember one time he came off the field. Back then we had somebody that would take a still picture right before the snap and then right after the snap, another picture. So we would come off after the drive, And we'd study those and try to figure out what they're doing defensively and how to adjust. Now they have the little surface and you can see video and all that stuff. So it's kind of like cheating. But I remember him saying, yeah, I saw number 25 run this way, so I did this. I just kind of sat there and scratched my head. I was like, man, this dude is like recalling jersey numbers. When I'm out there, I just see a blur. Like I see a white jersey, we're in green, they're in white. Like that's all I kind of see. And like he's just so aware that he's recalling the jersey numbers as the play is going on. And I found that to be kind of crazy. So professionalism, awareness, his smarts, all that stuff, he's got that in the bank, and it just allowed him to go out there and play free. You know, I think that's what a lot of people were attracted to is, you know, he's like a big kid out there playing. So, of course, I was the end of a few jokes and pranks and stuff like that along the way. But, you know, great guy, great teammate. Couldn't have been happier getting to play with him for 4.5 years.
Doug Peterson was also a quarterback on that team. He was obviously now gone on to coaching the Eagles to win a Super Bowl, now over with the Jaguars. How well did you get to know Doug?
Very well. He actually, you know, being a backup behind Brett, it's kind of a brotherhood. You know, there's a lot of guys that went off and kind of did their own thing, like a Matt Hasselback and Aaron Brooks and Brunell. You know, a lot of these guys that kind of played under Brett, and you know, so it's our own little fraternity in a way. But me and Doug, we used to fight for reps at scout team, and we had a couple little systems to where we would make that not necessarily equal. You know, I'm the young buck. I got to come in here and earn my stripes. But I competed hard with Doug just like I did with Brett. You know, I learned from both those guys on what it took to stick around for a while. Doug was very instrumental in teaching me how to hold for field goals and extra points. He's one of the best I've ever seen do it. But also one of the roles that I had, especially after my second year there, he was put on IR and retired after that and got in his coaching career. But he tutored me and taught me how to steal signals. So during the course of the game, we'd look over at the defensive signaler and be able to interpret what they're doing. Obviously, we had some reconnaissance the weeks before. Some people from our scouting department would gather some intel, and then we'd go back and watch the film. So we would go into a game with a little bit of knowledge of what their signals are like, have a couple of tips maybe to pick up on. And we had a way of being able to communicate that to Brett, telling him either what the coverage was or if there was a blitz, something like that. But we were always told, if you're going to give him some information, you have to be 100% correct. If you're just guessing, then don't say anything at all. Well, one time we're playing Minnesota in Lambeau, and Doug gets a signal for a strong dog, which is the middle linebacker and the strong side linebacker. So Mike and Sam are blitzing from one side. So as soon as they break the huddle, he says, hey, strong dog, strong dog. So Brett gets up there and he starts making a protection call to pick up this blitz. Well, one thing that we failed to realize is that we had motion on that play. So we had a receiver going from one side of the field, crossing the ball to the other. And a lot of times when you do that, the defense now adjusts their call because the strength of the defense is to the other side. So he makes the protection call one way. They end up coming from the other. It was a sack fumble, and we lose the ball. And I remember Coach Darrell Bevel was just completely out of his mind, upset that Doug gave him the wrong signal. So I learned early on that I have to be 100% or don't say anything at all. But eventually the defense, you know, they had the headset and everything, so they didn't have to signal anymore, and kind of took me out of a job. But that was a lot of fun. It kept me into it. I understood what the defense was doing, so if I did have a chance to play, I was very much in tune with what was going on the field.
You go over to play in NFL Europe in 2003. You're playing for the Scottish Claymores. You end up second in the league in passing yards. You're named All NFL Europe. Talk about your experience going over there to play.
So after my rookie season in 2002, getting ready to go home for the offseason, I'd actually asked the coaches if they were going to send me to Europe, because in my 5 years of college, I only started 12 games. So I hadn't played a lot. And they told me, no, we think it would be more beneficial for you to be here during the off season, learning our system and all that stuff. I said, okay, great. So I kind of make my off season plans, set my schedule for my rest time and when I'm going to start lifting again, and then eventually start picking up the football and throwing, mix in a vacation or something in between there. And I get a call from my offensive coordinator, Tom Rossley, kind of late February. And he said, hey, I know we said we weren't going to send you to Europe, but I think we're going to end up sending you over there. I was like, really? He said, yeah, today's the last day that we can allocate anybody. So it's not 100% yet, but it's probable. He said, I'll call you back in the next 30 minutes. We're just trying to make sure any team that we send you to is going to be a comparable offense to what we're doing here. So he calls back and he said that I'm going to Scotland. I was like, okay, well, here we go. So we had a 2-week training period in Tampa. All the teams were there, a couple of scrimmages, and then final cuts before they send everybody across the pond. Man, it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of like a college all-star league, if you will. Practices weren't super serious. We're living in a hotel for 3 months, but I'm in downtown Glasgow, and I got to experience the world. I was an A allocate, which means I was under contract with an NFL team when they sent me over there. The other allocation is a D allocate, so that's somebody that they picked up during the off season and then allocates them. And then you have the free agents and the national players, which are non-American. They had to have so many of those on the roster on each team. So we had some guys from London. We had a receiver from Scotland there. A couple other people. It was great. Ended up leading the league in touchdowns and quarterback rating. And we ended up losing in a 3-way tie to go into the championship game, which we were hosting that year. We lost on a coin flip. So
Jeez.
That was kind of upsetting. But,
No doubt.
I went over there. I showed what I was capable of doing. I learned a lot. I got to do some cool stuff, like I took a picture at the Berlin Wall. We got to go tour Amsterdam and kind of not get a true taste of it, but we saw the red light district. I got to play the old course at St. Andrews and a couple other courses around there. I think we played Jubilee and the new course. So I got to do some really cool stuff, made some great friends, some people that I still actually keep in contact with, either through social media or other avenues. But it was fun. But it's one of those leagues where it's developmental. You don't want to continue to go back there year after year. The end goal is to do your time and get out and spend the rest of your career in the NFL. So very thankful for that opportunity. I had a blast. I learned a lot. I grew. I think we set a franchise record. We averaged like 440 yards on offense per game. So Ken Marjoram was our offensive coordinator, who was a receiver for the Bears back when McMahon and them were playing. So he was a West Coast guy. So a lot of similarities to what we were doing in Green Bay in terms of offense. So it wasn't a huge learning curve when I got over there. It was a lot of fun. And I had a lot of say-so in what we were running. Ken and I had a really good relationship. We would do a lot of the game planning stuff together. I'd sit in on offensive staff meetings and kind of voice my opinion on things. Actually help with some personnel on who we decided to take and bring to Scotland with us. So it was great. I'd do it again if I had to.
So, Craig, based on all of that success and the success that you had periodically when you got an opportunity to get in there with the Packers, were you disappointed that didn't lead to more opportunities, that more teams didn't take notice of all the great things that you put out there? When you got a chance, you delivered. It seems like you didn't really get the opportunities. The doors didn't open like they should have.
Yeah, in the 7 credited seasons that I acquired, I think I only played in 6 games. One of those, I threw 1 pass, and the time expired. We lost to the Giants 14-7. That's when Doug Peterson got hurt and basically ended his career. One game, I took the final 2 snaps against Oakland on that Monday night game after Favre's dad died. And then I played in 4 other games. 2 of them were on Monday night, and the other 2, one was against Detroit and one was against Chicago, the last game of the season, where our playoff seed was already set. We couldn't do anything better or worse. So Favre would play a quarter, and I played the other 3 quarters. But that was basically the playing time that I got in my 7 years. So, yeah, when after my 4th season in Green Bay, we had a terrible season, go 4-12. Mike Sherman got fired. That was Rodgers' rookie year, and Brett was still under contract. Mine was up. My rookie contract was up after that season. So I became a free agent and took a few visits. I went over to Minnesota, where Darrell Bevell had become the offensive coordinator under Childress. Darrell was my quarterback coach for 4 years. And I took a trip over there. I kind of wish they would have given me a better contract, or I would have been a Minnesota Viking, but they were only offering me a 1-year contract to be a backup to Brad Johnson, where Buffalo was offering me a 3-year contract, which means some upfront guaranteed money, and the job was wide open. So I was coming in competing for the starting job, and I had to take that. They gave me almost $1.5 million signing bonus and a chance to compete for the starting job. So I jumped on it, went to Buffalo. Unfortunately, the afternoon practice of the second day of training camp, I pulled my hamstring pretty good. Ended up being out for 3 weeks, and they have to get somebody ready to play, and that ended up being J.P. Lossman, who was the starter the year before. So he ended up taking 100% of the snaps that year. So I never really got another opportunity to get on the field. The next year, Kelly Holcomb was also there, but the next season, Kelly got traded, and they ended up drafting Trent Edwards in the 3rd round. It eventually cut me, only to bring me back a few weeks later. Signed back with Buffalo, which I didn't really want to do because a lot of people don't understand the business side of things. So my contract that year, my base salary is supposed to be $1 million. I'm a vested veteran. If I'm on the opening day roster as a vested veteran, my salary is guaranteed for that year. Well, that was the 54th guy. When they brought me back, it was to a minimum contract. That year, I think my minimum was around $650. But it was also prorated. I'd missed the first 3 weeks of the season. So instead of $1 million guaranteed, it was worth about $475. So you can understand why I didn't really want to come back, considering with about 2 weeks to go in training camp, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I had been through some political stuff down at LSU. I had learned some things in Green Bay in the 4 years that I was there, and guys that I had to compete against, like Akili Smith and Tim Couch and Aaron Rodgers, all these first-round picks, that I was having a battle, but still held my own. So I kind of saw it coming when I wasn't getting the opportunities to really show what I could do in Buffalo. So I asked to be cut, and they said no, only to be cut 2 weeks later. And then brought me back for a minimum contract that was prorated. But my agent told me, he's like, you're not in a position to turn down an NFL contract. You have to take this. Who knows? Trent Edwards gets hurt. You're in the game. You never know what'll happen. So I ended up being there for a month. Then when JP got healthy, they released me again. Then I ended up in Houston for 3 weeks. Mike Sherman was offensive coordinator there under Gary Kubiak. Matt Schaub was the quarterback. He had gotten hurt, bummed his knee or something like that. So I was there for 3 weeks, released again. And at the time, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and we were making the move from Buffalo to Texas when Green Bay was playing in Dallas. Favre had gotten hurt. It was a Thursday night game, and we were at some hotel in Ohio and listening to it on the radio because they didn't have NFL Network. And Favre gets hurt. Rodgers comes in. He played pretty well, but Green Bay ultimately lost the game. I think they were both like 10-0 at the time. So it was a really big matchup between FC teams. And the next morning, I get a phone call from a 920 area code asking if I wanted to come back to Green Bay. And I said, well, if you're offering me a contract, I'm 10 hours away. I'm in Ohio. I've got my truck. I could be there this afternoon. But they said, no, continue on to Texas. We'll fly you in. So I continued the trip, flew in a couple of days later, ended up finishing out the season with them. We lost in the NFC Championship game in overtime to the Giants. So almost made it to the Super Bowl. So on 3 different teams, had 3 bye weeks, 2 team pictures. I think I missed Houston's team picture by a week and almost went to the Super Bowl all in one season.
Wow.
So, and then the next year I didn't get any invites to OTAs or mini camp or anything. Halfway through that season in 2008, Schaub got hurt again down in Houston. And I get a phone call like week 9. I'd had a couple of workouts, but I didn't get signed by anybody. And so I ended up going to Houston and finished out the season with them. Again, not getting a chance to play. Sage Rosenfels was the interim starter. And then after the season was over, I told Coach Kubiak I would love to come, during training camp next year. He said he would invite me, but can't guarantee they're not going to pick up somebody in free agency, which they did. But man, true to his word, he gave me a call, but I was going to be the 5th quarterback in camp and wasn't guaranteed a whole lot of playing time. So I chose not to do that. I got an invite to go play in the UFL, the original UFL. Coach Hazlitt was the head coach, and Jay Gruden was offensive coordinator. So I went there for a couple of weeks, but another injury, pulled my groin the first week. It was only a 2-week training camp. And they released me, and that was kind of the end of my career. So I really didn't get a chance to play a whole lot. If I'd have gotten an opportunity in my 8th season, my minimum salary was going to jump up to over $800,000. And I think ultimately I just kind of got phased out. Going into your 8th year, no starting experience and a price tag of $800,000. There was a lot of teams that just weren't willing to take that risk. They could get a couple of rookies for the same price, maybe a diamond in the rough. So I just quit getting opportunities. It wasn't that I couldn't play. It's just, I didn't have enough experience to warrant that type of price tag, I guess. So could be worse, better than most. No regrets. When I got my opportunities, I was prepared and I played well. And I'll rest my head on that.
Craig, let's switch gears because this is a golf show and I want to talk a little golf before I let you go. And you just mentioned, your time over in Scotland, you got to play at St. Andrews, so that perked up my ears. What was it like for you playing at the home of golf?
It was great. So we had one of our kickers. Was a really good golfer. It seems like most kickers are really good at golf, kickers and punters. And we put our name in the lottery to be able to play. So 4 of us took the train up to St. Andrews, and we had to provide proof of handicap. I didn't have a handicap at the time, but one of the kickers knew somebody back in Georgia, a club pro, who manufactured a handicap for us to get us on. And thankfully, all 4 of us got to play in the same round. So we all got to play together. And of course, we're cheap. We did not pay for a caddy, which we could have used a couple of times because we almost teed off the wrong way one time on one hole. There's a couple holes out there where they share a green. I think there's 2 greens that are shared out there. We hit to the wrong flag one time, and I ended up having close to a 100-yard putt. It was kind of overcast when we started. By the 3rd hole, it started hailing.
Oh, my.
that lasted for about 20 minutes, and then it cleared up, and it was like 75 degrees and sunny the rest of the round. So we got a little bit of everything while we were there. Lost a few balls. I made one birdie. I birdied number 10, and somehow I was only in one bunker the entire day. Guess what bunker that was?
Was it the hell bunker?
Yeah, number 17. That was it took me 3 shots to get out of it. That thing's crazy. So anyway, it was great. I think I shot at 90 something. I didn't even have a driver at the time, but it was a lot of fun. And there was a little bed and breakfast that we stayed at about 100 yards up the road from the 18th green that was owned and operated by a guy that was a Texas A&M Aggie graduate. So that was really cool. But I've gotten a lot better at golf since that day. I can tell you that.
Well, I saw a video of you striping one off the tee and a video that you posted on Instagram. I can't imagine any of your buddies wanted any part of what I saw.
Yeah, I can move it a little bit. Strength is in my length. I think it's a very similar move. Quarterbacks are pretty good golfers because of the biomechanics, the movement, everything are quite similar when you break it down. It's ground force to rotational force, and then syncing up the upper and lower half. We also have kind of the temperament and the mindset to be able to handle those decision-making opportunities during the course of a round, what shot to hit, what club. So I'm a pretty good long iron player, a pretty good putter. My wedge game is terrible.
Short game, short game, short game is what Tom Patry always says every other week on this show. And if you can chip and putt, boy, you've got a huge advantage on pretty much anybody you're going to be out there playing against. But from what I saw, boy, you are absolutely bombing it off the tee.
Yeah, for the most part. I haven't played in a while, so I've been nursing a rotator cuff, actually something I injured back in 2007. I didn't have surgery, but a couple months worth of rehab. It's kind of crept back up. I don't know if it's scar tissue or whatever. So I've only played twice in the last 8 months, which is crazy for me. I've never gone this long. There's a couple other factors in there as to why I'm not playing. I won't go too much into it, but I made the decision a little over 7 months ago to stop drinking. So I did a couple weeks in a treatment center. I've been attending AA meetings and everything. So I've been kind of distancing myself from the golf course and kind of some environments that I don't want to be in. I've had some health issues, as I mentioned. Blood pressure was sky high. I lost my dad a couple of years ago, actually March 8th, 22. So that anniversary is coming up in 2 days. Died of a heart attack, and I got some sleep apnea going on. Anyway, so long story short, I haven't been playing a lot of golf. I've been focusing on a new career, getting my divorce final. But now that spring is here and the time's about to change, I'm hoping to get back out there a little bit and knock the rust off the clubs and get back out there and do a little walking instead of riding the cart all the time.
You got to tell me about your Cajun bread, because I went online and looked at that. That looks outstanding. I got to get a couple of dozen of those rolls.
Yeah, well, text me your address, and the next batch I'll send some out to you. My mom got the original recipe from a high school tailgating party back in the early 90s. And the original recipe is in a loaf of bread. And we would always serve it at either family get-togethers, holidays, parties and such. Tailgating just became kind of something that we would make quite often. And when I got to Green Bay, I learned early on when we started traveling that the rookie for that position is supposed to bring food on the plane for your position. So I said, okay. So the first week that we traveled, ironically, was to play the Saints in New Orleans. And I asked Brett Favre, I was like, do you want me to bring some food on the plane? I was told that I was supposed to bring food. He said, yeah, if you go by McDonald's, give me a double quarter pounder with cheese. So I said, okay. So I went to McDonald's. But then the next time we traveled, I was like, man, this is this is Brett Favre we're talking about. I can do better than that. I said, I know what. He'll love this Cajun bread. So it was me, Doug Peterson, and Brett Favre in our room. That was the three of us. And me and Doug are from Louisiana, and Brett's from Mississippi. And then our quarterback coach, Daryl Bevel, I think he's from Flagstaff and Mormon. So we joke around. We had three rednecks and a Mormon in our quarterback room. It's kind of like it's part of a joke. But anyway, so I made a couple of loaves, which the recipe yielded. And Brett was like, man, this is good. You made this? I said, yeah. Oh, you're going to make somebody a good wife one day. Hey, you should give some to Coach Sherman. So I brought some up to him. He loved it. So the next week that we traveled, I made 4 loaves. And then the offensive linemen are kind of sniffing around. What you got there and all? And so I ended up making 6 loaves and having a couple that I kind of slice up and roll in aluminum foil and pass out. The next year, it just kind of grew into this thing where I started selling them for $20 a loaf because that slice or two wasn't enough for everybody. But got to the point where I was making so much. I was making it all from scratch at that time. I had to make 16 loaves one day, and I almost missed the plane. I was like 5 minutes from them closing the door when I walked on. And, of course, I got to go through first class where, the front office people and the coaches and everybody. And I'm walking with this big box of bread. Coaches are looking at their watches and stuff and like, well, he made it. And then I get back to coach and everybody just erupted like, whoo, he made it. Yeah, and he's got the bread. And I was passing it out. Here you go. Enjoy it. Never again. I'm out. So over the years, I've had a lot of people ask if I can, share the recipe with them. And I did early on. And it always came back like, man, you do something different. It doesn't taste the same. And finally, I had a friend of mine out in California that hit me up. This is probably about 7-8 years ago. And it said, can you send me some? Like make it and then send it. And I'd never done that before. So I told him, give me a couple of weeks and let me just try to see how that works out. So I pre-made some, I froze it. And then I tried to figure out how to bake it after it was made. And in the loaf, I couldn't get it to bake out consistently. I had to let it thaw for like 3 hours. And I don't know, it struggled. The filling would come out onto the baking pan. And so just really by trial and error, where I get most of my ingredients from Walmart. So where I get these little 1 pound frozen bread dough, right next to it, they have the same bread dough, but it's proportioned out little dinner rolls, about 1.25 ounces. And I was like, well, what if I make some little mini rolls, proportion it out evenly? And I taught myself how to roll them up. And so I developed this whole process to make a stuffed dinner roll. Then I took my mom's recipe and I split it because some people wanted it spicier and some people didn't like the jalapenos. So I made a mild and a spicy version. Then I did something that was kind of kid friendly and for breakfast. So naturally sausage, egg, and cheese or bacon, egg, and cheese. And then I've experimented with a number of other recipes. I had a friend of mine from Pennsylvania sent me down some Philly cheesesteak stuff, and I made a Philly roll. That was great. Recently, for the Super Bowl, I made another batch of chicken bacon ranch that went over very well.
No doubt.
Yeah, and just kind of over the years, I had it in low level production. I had a partner of mine that owns a barbecue chain here in the DFW area, and I was having it made out of his commissary. So I taught his chef how to cook everything, and I had a couple of Hispanic ladies that worked there and taught them how to roll them up. So I was kind of hands off. It was more a proof of concept for me that I could teach somebody else how to make it, and I could just focus on selling it and try to develop a business around a product that I'd invented. But it was costing me too much to do that because he was having to pay overtime for his employees. Then our schedules got off, and my lead time to get product was almost a month. He had a couple of construction projects going on in DFW Airport, and it just wasn't working for me. So I grabbed all my stuff and I came back home. And I don't know. I still make it for friends and family. I don't really advertise it a ton because I'm still making it from home, and I'm not in an FDA regulated kitchen, which insurance and all that stuff. So I just kind of sell it to friends and family. But recently I've got a potential meeting coming up, hopefully within the next month, with HEB. I have a contact that has somebody on the inside over there to potentially get them interested in carrying it in their stores. And if they're interested and give me a purchase order, I can now take that and shop it to different factories, something called a co-packer that will produce that food for you, package it up, and then help you with distribution. So then I can go out and kind of sell it. So it's definitely something that I'm passionate about. I love cooking. Growing up in Louisiana, it's kind of a rite of passage. I really just enjoy seeing people smile and rave about it when they taste it. It's very unique. It's kind of like a kolache, but it's just different. It's great. And I have my mom to thank for that. She blessed me to take the recipe and manipulate it a little bit and turn it into my own little deal. So Craig's Cajun Bread really started back in 2002 on the plane with the Green Bay Packers, and it's evolved from there. But eventually I'll figure it out. One day I would love to have a food truck and just drive that around and throw these balls out the truck.
Wow. Well, you got to keep me informed if that's going on, and if you get this deal done with HEB so that I can go online and buy a bunch of this stuff, because it just sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and at some point, I have a lot of people that tell me where to sell it, or you do great here. I think it would kill at golf courses. You just grab a couple at the turn and go.
Yes.
I had a restaurant here about 2 years ago that I was selling them to. They were deep frying them because it's an appetizer. And if you order an app at the restaurant, it needs to really be out in about 5 to 7 minutes. So they drop them in the deep fryer, and they came out great. I still prefer them baked, but it was a means to an end. But then they sold that restaurant, and that didn't really work out. So I don't know. Eventually, people talk about Shark Tank. I wouldn't mind getting on there, but I kind of need some sales under my belt and actually develop a business before I'm ready to fill out that application.
Craig, before I let you go, let our listeners know, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're doing, whether it's following you online or it's doing it on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is CNall16. I use that more than anything to keep up with friends and send stupid videos, post pictures about my kids or football camp stuff. I'm on Facebook a pretty good bit. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can search me there. Yeah, that's about it, man.
Well, Craig, it has been awesome getting to spend some time with you and catching up and hearing about all the things that happened in the course of your career and obviously what you're doing now. Let folks know, too, like you say, you're doing some coaching. So for up-and-coming quarterbacks, how can they get in front of Craig Nall?
I haven't been training over the last year, just starting a new job and going through the life changes that I kind of explained. I've taken a sabbatical from the private training here locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Where over the last 15 years, I've been doing private lessons, group stuff, but I'm really just focusing on the Elite 11. So for elite11.com, you can kind of check out the schedule. For the high school kids, we have the Elite 11 regional tour that is starting in a couple of weeks. And then for 5th through 10th grade, we have what's called the Elite 11 Academy. That's a 3-day deal. It's more developmental. It's not a competition like the one is for the high school kids. But I'll do as many of those as possible. So if you get an opportunity to check the schedule on elite11.com, good chance I'll be at one of those events.
Well, Craig, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. You're awesome, my friend. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed the last hour and listened to all of your stories and the things that you've been involved with. You were very gracious to us 12 years ago plus now. Come on a show with a couple of guys you never heard of on a show you never heard of. And we became big fans right away. So I can't thank you enough for continuing to do it.
Yeah, my pleasure, Chris, and congratulations on all your success. You've created quite a following there, and I've listened to several of your shows with other athletes. So keep doing your thing, and a couple of years down the road, maybe I'll have something else interesting to talk about, and I'll come back on anytime.
I hope so. Take care, my friend. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
Okay, bud. Appreciate you.
See you, Craig.
Bye.
That is Craig Nall. Nall is the spelling of his last name. A guy, like I say, who's been a wonderful friend for well over a decade now, and somebody that we always thought over on Thursday Night Tailgate was a guy who deserved more opportunities, a better chance. Every time he got in there, he did exactly what the team was hoping he would do. Again, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 63% completion percentage. Look, he was never going to get the opportunity behind Brett Favre. We understand that. But you would have guessed that somebody, when he had an opportunity to go to the Bills or the Texans or somebody else that was looking for a quality quarterback, would have reached out to Green Bay and given Craig an opportunity. Went over to the Scottish Claymores, did a great job over there. Beyond all of that, kudos to Craig for doing the things he needed to do with his life beyond football and outside of the game to get back to where he is today. I know it's not easy. That's a tough thing that he's gone through, right? The alcoholism, loss of a father, a divorce, all of those things, very, very difficult things that you have to deal with in life and in your personal life. And Craig did it. He has come a long way, and he's come back, and he's doing great things now. So kudos to Craig. We're all in his corner. We love all the things that he is out there doing today now with his life. And like I said, just wish he would have had a greater opportunity to do the things that he wanted to do inside of the game.
Frustrated with your golf game? Imagine playing with total confidence. Join LPGA Pro and mindset expert Debbie O'Connell for her Conquer Your Golf Mind Challenge. Bill cut 6 strokes and Lori is club champion. What's your goal? Click the link or text NEXT to 727-339-0106. Use code NEXT for $20 off. Your tee time for transformation is now. Will you take the shot?
All right, now back in next on the tee with me is LPGA Top 50 instructor and one of my favorite people on the planet, as you guys know, and that is Debbie O'Connell. I got a huge thrill by meeting Debbie in person finally at the PGA Merchandise Show. Got to spend some time with her down there, and as you guys know, Debbie is one of the top 50 LPGA instructors. She has been named the LPGA National Professional of the Year, the LPGA Southeast Section Professional of the Year, and the Northeast Section Teacher of the Year. She's an inductee into her high school's Athletics Hall of Fame. She won the inaugural Nancy Lopez Golf Achievement Award in 2007. She hosted her own show for quite a while, the Debbie O'Connell Radio Show and the Par for the Course TV show. She is the founder of Golf Positive, which you guys know I love. She's written a wonderful book titled Golf Positive, Live Positive, Lessons in Golf and Life, which you can go out and get on Amazon or listen to on audible.com. We're doing a little something together, which we'll talk about in a bit, but I couldn't be more excited. I get to spend more time with her today here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Debbie, how are you, my friend?
I couldn't be better, Chris. And meeting you in person was the highlight of my PGA show, I have to admit. It
Same.
was so neat. When I heard your voice, I was like, I know that voice. And I turned around and I saw you. So what an exciting time.
Yes, it was. I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me when we were down there. Debbie, as we get started, one of the many wonderful things about you is you're always thinking about how you can help us play better, whether it's some tips about how to play shots better, exercises that we can do to strengthen our bodies or improve our mental approach. Catch us up, because you've been doing so many wonderful things since I saw you in January. What are some of the things you've been doing lately?
I am on a mission to help everyone conquer their mind. That's the main focus for me. I love to give golf tips. I love to teach it. I love to work on my own game as well in terms of performance skills, and understand that along with a strong mindset, we will play our best golf. Wherever we are in terms of our level, we can learn and focus on mindset and be able to focus more in the zone, which is called flow state, right? We get in the flow when everything feels easy. We're in the present moment. We have no fear of the future, and we have no baggage coming from the past hole. Maybe that didn't go so well. And being in that kind of state will help us play our best golf. So I believe, golf is 100% part of every shot in golf. You have a strong mindset, you will perform measurably better 100%. So I'm continuing my journey and learning more and more and more about our brains, neuroscience, flow state, and working with some of the leaders in the industry. And it's just been a phenomenal journey. And anytime I learn something that's really cool and exciting, I love to share.
Debbie, you mentioned the phrase present moment because too often our minds are worried about the outcome of our next shot before we even address the ball for the current shot. How can we direct our minds to stay in the present moment, focus on feel and that sort of thing so that we don't get overwhelmed and start getting down like, man, I can't believe I got to hit this shot?
Great question. The present moment is key because, as I mentioned, when you are in this moment right now, there's no fear of the future. So you're not worried about the outcome of the shot, that it might go in the water, that there's out of bounds, or that there's people watching and I might embarrass myself. I mean, all of you listening, think about what are some of the negative thoughts and emotions that come up for you, and let's figure out how we can tackle those. But let me give you a couple keys to be in the present moment. One is to breathe. And it's not just to keep you alive anymore. There are so many studies done on our breath and how it can enhance performance. There's also a whole, and I've been studying this too, about breath work and how to help you release emotions. So there's a whole depth to our breath that many of us have not tapped into. So what happens if you do a deep diaphragmatic breath and focus on how your body is feeling, you automatically get pulled into that present moment. And a great breath is, breathe in through your nose, let your belly go out, maybe for like 4 seconds, and then hold, and then pierce your lips so you control your breath that's going out, and do that for about 8 seconds. What that does, Chris, besides if you focus on your body and how it makes you feel, put you in present moment, it also ignites the parasympathetic system, which is the calming system in our body. You actually calm your nerves with that breath. So use breathing to your advantage. That will help you immediately get into that present moment.
I mean, nothing gets my mind going in a negative direction more than when I hit an approach shot into a greenside bunker. Everybody knows on this show that that's my worst shot. Even more so if we've got something in trouble on the opposite side of the green, whether it's a pond or there's another bunker over there. What can I do to get myself in a better frame of mind, give myself a better opportunity to get the ball out of the bunker and onto the green?
I love that question. And we want to help you, Chris. So now going forward, I want you to say that used to be my worst shot. And now I feel so confident and comfortable when I step into a bunker. I easily and effortlessly hit a shot out onto the green. And I've been in that situation, kind of a downhill bunker, pin is pretty close to the edge of the green and there's water on the other side. I've been there. So I completely understand the situation. As a matter of fact, years ago, I was in our LPGA national tournament and I had one of those little bit longer bunker shots. It was greenside, but it was one of those long ones. So I really needed to take a big swing to get the ball on the green. And I didn't get enough sand. I hit it over the green, over the fence, and into the pool at somebody's property. So
been there.
Imagine the next time. Now I'm out of bounds, so I have to hit the same shot.
Oh, wow.
So I dropped the ball, and now I'm like, all right, same girl with a little more experience. So now that time I obviously got enough sand and I got it onto the green, a little short of the hole this time, which worked out much better. Well, I understand for many of the listeners, probably your reaction when it goes into the bunker needs to shift right away. Everybody listening who has trouble with this shot, you don't want it to be, oh no, here we go. I can't believe I just hit it. All that negative emotion right away is going to get the sympathetic nervous system going, which is more nerves and worry and stress. And we don't want stress coming into our system. So first, your reaction. A great way to react is interesting, or I've got this. All right, going to the beach. Well, this could be a great par. if you just immediately after you see it go in there, it's heading there, start to shift to a kind of neutral reaction to it and have a word or a saying that can help you stay in a better frame of mind, right there, you're going to support yourself in hitting a great shot. The next step is your pre-shot routine. Now, hopefully you and all of your listeners have a pre-shot routine you do before each shot. It's probably a little different in the bunker because you're not going to probably take the same practice swing, but part of that pre-shot routine should include, and I hope it does, visualizing the shot you intend to hit. So make sure you do that. And while you're visualizing, stand in a confident way. Get your shoulders back, get your chin up, put a smile on your face, visualize your shot and tell yourself, I've got this. So it's using your body, using your visualization, and then use your language to signify to your mind and body, we intend to hit this shot really well. The more clear you are on the intended shot, the better it is for our brain. That's kind of talking to our brain. It loves simple and specific. And then you step in. Now it's time to play. Be like a little kid playing in the sand. Being playful helps bring on the present moment. And we want to be right here in the present moment. That breath before you step in there is going to be key as well. And then, what I've done on some of my most challenging shots, like the one I described where, water on the other side. I didn't think about the pool because I didn't think I was going to hit it that far in that shot. But I actually look at the hole and I'll say, this might go in. And when I say that, I just tried it one time. My body gets more relaxed because if I'm telling my brain I might actually hit this in the hole, then it must not be that hard. So I look at the hole and I'm like, this might go in. And it gives me just that little bit of extra, calmness. It helps me focus on target. And then we got, in that moment, we go unconscious. Now we just swing. And, this is the challenge of golf, right? We imagine the shot like it means the world. We want to be specific. We want to see it. We want to, feel what that was going to feel like. When we step into that play box and we're about to execute the shot, we need to swing like we don't care. Meaning we've got to release the outcome at that point. Keep a vision of the target because we want to be target focused, but wherever it goes at that point. So I think that's the big challenge in golf, right? We have to plan it like it's important and then swing like it's not.
I love that. That's fantastic. Debbie, we all want more distance, right? Everything in now is about more distance, but at the same time, we want the ball to go straight. Going far and into the trees isn't good. We want far and straight. You put up a video on your Instagram page, and folks, you can go check it out at Debbie_O_Connell with a tip for how we can get both of those things. Do you mind sharing that?
Oh, I'd love to. And I'm going to take it even deeper here, right? And I want you to think about letting go of control. How many of you hold the club too tightly and have tension from your hands running up your arms into your shoulders? And that tension is like you're putting the brakes on the whole time, feeling like you have to control where your club is going, control where the ball is going, and having all of that control will get in the way. And that is truly mindset. And I have a program where we go into figuring out what's the deal with this control. Because I've done this. I'm like telling my students, and years ago, loosen up, loosen your grip, relax, let it swing. And they actually can't. And there's a reason, because think about if that is you, do you feel like you need to be in control in other areas of life as well? So we dive into what does control represent for you? If you're out of control, for some people, there was a scary time in their life or in their childhood where they felt out of control and they were scared. And your brain is always trying to protect you. And it doesn't know the difference between out of control with a golf club, which is a good thing, or out of control in life. So what happens is it's almost physically impossible, because mentally impossible, to relax and let go physically because of the meaning of relaxing and letting something swing. So that's what when I help people conquer their golf mind, we don't just figure out, okay, you can't be in control, and don't be a perfectionist anymore either. We are going to figure out, well, what's the reason? What's the meaning that you put to being out of control? Or people who are very negative and criticize themselves. So what's the meaning we're putting to that bad shot? Like, why is it impacting you so much that all of a sudden you're in this stressful, negative, self-talk situation? So there's so much, it goes a lot deeper. And that's where I've seen the most transformation. I've had people in 2 days of my 5-day program go out and shoot their best score ever. I had one lady, it was so great, Chris. She had been playing golf for a year. Her lowest score ever was 104. We did day 1 of my Conquer Your Golf Mind Challenge. She also signed up for VIP. I got a chance to coach her, not only a mindset, but a little bit of her golf. She went out the next day and shot 90, 14 shots better with a mindset shift and a little tip on her golf, because she had a chance to work with me personally. So it's magnificent. So as far as the control, here's what we want to do. Hitting it farther and straighter. You will literally hit it straighter with less control, getting rid of the tension in your body, loosening your grip. One tip I have for you on the physical part is your glove hand, your target side hand. So for the right-handed golfer, it's your left. You can squeeze a little firm with the pinky and ring finger. So okay, I'm not going to lose the club. The club is absolutely going to stay in my hand. And then really relax your thumb, middle finger, and index finger of that hand. Just kind of lay it on the club. With your dominant hand, most people play golf right-handed or right-handed. Most people, some, not everybody, and then most people play golf left-handed or have the dominant left hand. So with your dominant hand, relax that the best you can. And what I've done with some people, I've said, take your thumb and index finger actually off the club. So if you have trouble loosening that grip up, take the index finger and the thumb of your dominant hand off the club. You will be amazed. It'll feel scary as all get out for you. And you'll be able to swing the club faster, and you'll hit the ball straighter. So, and then that breath is a key. Get the tension out of your arms and shoulders. Let it swing. Gravity and centrifugal force are your friend in all of golf. Let the club swing and work on the rotation. I've been doing golf forever as for my workout, and I'm telling you that rotational move and strengthening that is a key to hitting the ball farther as well. So check in on your fitness. But here's the big key. Let go, and don't be quite a perfectionist either. Easier said than done. If you find you're a perfectionist, get in my course and we'll help you tackle that, so you're not putting so much pressure on yourself. Golf is hard enough when you're just out there hitting the ball. When you're trying to be perfect on top of that, that makes it even harder. So let it swing, everybody.
There you go. So let's talk about that course, because you regularly have classes and seminars that are going to help us build that confidence, lower our scores. I know you just did one this past Monday, and I'm excited that we're partnering on your Conquer Your Mind Challenge. You mentioned that a moment ago, but talk about what that is.
It's a phenomenal, game-changing course. I help you shatter your mental obstacles so you can play your best golf in 5 days. We literally, like I said, I've had people change. One gal won the club championship after doing my 5-day challenge. Others, they've dropped their handicaps. They've shot the best score they've shot in 20 years. And they're like, oh my God. One lady had a hole-in-one on day 3. She came back.
Is that right?
Yeah. She said, this mindset stuff really works. I couldn't believe it. I got on a par 3 and I got relaxed. And then when I really thought about it, I changed my club. I never did that before. I actually trusted myself to choose a different club, and I picked a different club. I did what you said to do, and the ball went in the hole. She said, wow. I never had one of those before. So it is so empowering, and it's fun for me to share. I have studied, Chris, mindset and, success strategies and peak performance and flow state for so many years, because I was a lifelong athlete. I played college basketball, played in the Final Four. which was an amazing experience. I've been on the free throw with the game on the line, those kinds of things. I'm a bowler. I've been on the lanes with 11 strikes in a row, needing one more for a perfect 300 game, and never been more nervous in my life. So I did it. Like, how did I do that? Well, I did a lot of work to get to that point because I failed so many times before. And I said, I need some help on my mental game here because I get so nervous and I didn't know how to handle it. If you get first tee jitters, come to this course and if you feel embarrassed out there, if you can't seem to let go of that control, if things like slow play bother you and mess up your great round, or if you fall apart at the end of a great round, or you're about to win the tournament and things don't go well, this course is for you. It's magnificent. If you just want to have more fun out there and be more positive, it's actually game changing and life changing. I've seen the transformations and all the success of the hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands now of people who've come through this course. And it's so fun to share. Like you said, I love to help people and I get inspired. I often cry at the testimonials people send me because it changed not only their game, but, more so than that, now they don't take their game home with them. It doesn't mess up things after golf. And we've discovered some things in golf that were happening in their life, and we've helped them shift that as well. So it's very powerful.
So tell us a little bit more about, the 5 days. Is it 5 days? Are we talking over Zoom? Or how many hours? Is it an all-day thing? Give us the specifics so we know how much time to set aside so we can come.
Absolutely. So it's 5 days with me, 90 minutes a day, and I can't even tell you how fast that goes, a webinar, and we send a replay. So I've had people where they couldn't be there for all of the days. They could get there, some live and some replay, and it works as well. And so if you're like, well, I work, because it's at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and it is on through Zoom. So everyone in the world can come and be part of this program. So 10 a.m. to 11:30 is the time. And then here's what takes this program to the next level. Everyone gets their own personal master certified coach. So you'll get a welcome call. So your coach understands exactly what you want to get out of the program and then what's been getting in the way. So we'll understand that. We'll make sure not only do we address everything that I already have put into the program because of so many golfers coming through. If there's anything else, you can ask questions in the chat. I'm coaching you the entire time, and then help you, with your mindset. At the end, you get a 45-minute strategy call with your coach. Because I don't know if you've done this, Chris, and I imagine many people have. I've taken online programs before, and then to implement it into my own life, or I've done it for my business. So to implement it into my own business was challenging, and I didn't always know how to fit it into my business. So I want to make sure with the information I share that you know how to implement it in your own game, and you have the strategies to move forward to continue on your journey to get better and better.
That's fantastic. I can't imagine why anyone wouldn't want to sign up for that. So many of us have so many things that get in the way, and a lot of it is mental. If we could just, as Bobby Jones always said, right, that 5-inch space between our ears is the hardest place. That's where all the battles are won and lost in the game of golf. Boy, what you do is just so fantastic, and then you're just such a great instructor on top of that. So you're the whole package. Debbie, you are just one of the most inspirational people I've ever met in our game. I can't thank you enough for all of the things that you do. Before I let you go, I know you've got a couple other things out there that I want to remind people about. First of all, Solheim Cup trip later this year. Remind everybody about that.
Yeah. Well, can I just give you with your listeners, Chris, I want to give them a gift. So here's what they can do, and I imagine this will be in the show notes. If they text the word next, as in next on the T, to 727-339-0106, it'll bring them to the landing page for Conquer Your Golf Mind Challenge. And then I want to give your listeners a $20 off code. And the coupon code is NEXT. So put in NEXT and you'll get $20 off. Look, You get all of what I described for less than the price of one golf lesson, and I promise you it'll improve every part of your game. The program, the value is about $1,000. I have it on special for $97. Your listeners get $20 off of that. So It's an incredible deal. I think it's a price. My staff is like, are you sure you want to only charge that? And I'm like, you know what? I just want to help as many people as possible. So that's that. Solheim Cup. I actually only have a few spots left. So if anyone's interested, jump on this one right away. Go to my website. But I run a great trip. It's 6 nights. We have an opening dinner with DJ and dancing. If you love to have fun, come on this trip. If you don't like to have fun, don't join me because we have a blast. We have our own Golf Positive Cup, Team America versus Team USA, a 2-day match play. So everyone gets into the feel of the match play of the Solheim Cup. It's a fun event. And then we go to the Solheim Cup. I take care of all the transportation for you. It's you have nothing to worry about. You just have to get there. And then we have a closing dinner as well. So I include all of that in the package. Just get there. It's outside of Washington, D.C. in Gainesville, Virginia. And we need as many fans as possible because we haven't had the cup in the last 3 Solheims. And last year it was 14-14. It's so incredibly exciting, but we didn't get the cup because we didn't have it. So Europe got to retain the cup. So let's get that cup this year.
And remind everybody about your book, Golf Positive, Live Positive, Lessons in Golf and Life, where they can pick up a copy of that or listen to it on Audible.
Yeah, that's on Amazon. That'd be the best place to go and get that. And it's so fun. I take it's the fundamentals. So it'll remind you of the fundamentals of golf. And then I take those fundamentals and I turn them into a life lesson. I've had people who don't even play golf read the book and say, oh my God, I absolutely love that book. My dad, he was so cute. He said, I haven't read a whole book in a long time. I read that whole thing cover to cover. So, and he's not playing golf anymore. So I mean, it really is impactful in terms of the life lessons on top of the reminders of those great fundamentals. So, hit Amazon for that one. And then on Audible, actually what I have is a 12-lesson series called Golf Positive. That's pretty cool. I went to the Audible offices in Newark and went into that recording booth and recorded that for Audible, which was great.
That's fantastic. All right, one more time. Conquer Your Mind Challenge. Let everyone know again. What are they texting and what's the number?
The word next, as in next on the T, 727-339-0106. When you go to the checkout, click where you can put in a coupon code, put in the code NEXT, as in next on the T, and you get $20 off the already low price of $97. So that's what I highly recommend you do. Debbie-O'Connell.com is my website, and the first thing that pops up is Solheim Cup if you're interested in that. Again, we only have a few spots left, so hurry up on that one.
And how can they follow you on social media?
Oh, wow. I'm on, I have Golf Positive on Facebook. I have my personal Facebook page, Debbie O'Connell /positive, I think it's called. Instagram is, Chris, you said it before, Debbie _O_ I wanted that O to stand out, _ and then Connell, Connell. I'm also on LinkedIn. Those are the 3 I focus on the most. If any of you are in business, the LinkedIn will really help you using golf for business or the different tips. And on my personal page, I do a little tip every Monday through Thursday. It's In Motion Monday, Talk Tuesday, Wellness, Workout Wednesday, and Thoughtful Thursday. And every once in a while, I throw in a fun Friday. You might see me in a wig and a costume, and I might sing to you. Because it's all about fun, isn't it? I love to... I don't care if people are laughing at me or with me. Either way, if I put a smile on their face, it's all good.
You're awesome. Debbie, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy day to come back and be a part of the show. Every single time you join me, we learn something. We have a good time. You make me smile an awful lot, and your tips and insights are just out of this world. I can't thank you enough. I look forward, hopefully catching up with you again very soon, because every time you're a part of the segment, the show does fantastic. So I hope you'll come back soon.
Well, you are the best in the industry, Chris, and your podcast is doing amazing. Congratulations on that. And everyone keep spreading the word about this particular podcast because it's so impactful.
I appreciate you. Take care, Debbie. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Chris. Bye-bye.
See you, Debbie. That is one of the most wonderful people on the planet, Debbie O'Connell. Go out and get involved in her program. Conquer Your Mind Challenge coming up on April the 15th. Go to 727-339-0106 and type in NEXT, N-E-X-T, and get involved in that program. Conquer your mind. Go out there and have more fun. Get over the things that bother you out on the golf course. Get your mind focused in the right places. Get into that flow state and feel more positive about your golf game, because if you feel more positive about it, you think more positively about it, you're going to have more positive results. Debbie O'Connell is just one of my favorite people on the planet. Just everything about her exudes positivity. That's why Golf Positive is perfect for her, and she's going to help you play a lot better. So go out there again. Type in 727-339-0106 on your phone and type in the word NEXT and get that discount and get involved in that program. Let me know what you think. I'm interested to hear as well. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on this edition of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks again to Craig Nall and Debbie O'Connell for joining me this week. We're going to try to do a twofer for you this week. We're going to try to have another special episode for you again a little bit later on this week, featuring a former Tour Pro that turned orthopedic surgeon, Bill Mallon, plus another former Tour Pro, Scott Gump, will be making his Next on the Tee debut with me. So we're going to give you 4 guests, but over the course of 2 different episodes. So I hope you'll come back and listen to that one as well. Quick reminder that you can find this show available as a podcast just about anywhere you get your podcast content. In particular, we're out there on the Pittsburgh Tribune Review site. Just go to triblive.com and click on sports, and you're going to find the show front and center on the homepage of the sports section. You can also find the show available on Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audio Boom, and Player.fm. And as always, my sincere thanks to the wonderful folks over at Good Pods for making this show one of their recommended podcasts. So please download their free app and stream your favorite podcast right there on your favorite device. But as always, most of all, my sincere thanks go out again, as always and every week, to all of you for being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts. I appreciate you guys so very much. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.